he wouldn't shoot me, but teasing time, we play, let's play fool. We'll go around the table, we're all 18 and able, 'cause you got a 20 and I got a house key and someone big.
Thank you guys for being on the podcast again and for not running like hell when you hear the Great Southern Brain Fart name. It's so funny because I feel like it's had the tendency to scare some people off, and some people have actually said they didn't want to talk to me because of the name, but not Twin Temple. Twin Temple embraces it, so I love that.
It takes a lot to scare us.
Well, so
we're in the business of scaring people.
y'all are so like pleasantly scary, which I love, It's like, oh my God, it's so scary, but oh, it's so beautiful. I love it. Well, so it's been a while since we talked the last time, and a lot of time has gone by, and you guys did an incredible tour with Graveyard and Uncle Acid, which was just amazing. And then you guys did another swing with Amiga the Devil, and then you guys went over and conquered Europe, so like a lot has changed. So how was Europe for you, and like how did they take to Twin Temple?
It was incredible.
It was amazing.
It's quite shocking, really.
It was shocking because we had only ever played, I think, Roadburn Festival with a few other headlining shows that we booked around that festival, like over a year ago, was it?
Yeah, that was spring.
Year and a half?
28.
You know what time is? It's Thursday, and I am lost in this. Thing. But anyways, like back then, we had only played those few shows, and the response was amazing. But, that was all.
Yeah, we hadn't gone through like most of Europe, all that was untapped.
No, it was like 3 shows in Europe, and so we had no idea. I mean, so when we went out there, we had no idea what to expect, but we ended up selling out a bunch of those shows, and every night, like our bandmates would be like, peeking around like the curtains and being like, holy shit, it's tax. Or, I'm sorry, forgive me, unholy shit.
No, yeah, there you go. I was about to correct you on that one, by the way. So, I was like, how dare you? No, I'm just kidding.
Shocked, really.
Yeah, it was crazy.
We ended up running out of merch like a couple weeks into
the first quarter.
Less than halfway. Like the person we had brought along to do merch was like, y'all, we've got like nothing left. We're like 1 or 2 shows wiped us out. So we ended up having to scramble to like print a bunch of more shirts and stuff. Like we really, I think, underestimated what was going to happen out there.
Yeah.
I mean, because, hey, like, we've been doing this a long time, and we played quite a few shit shows, and, like, we're just like, I don't know what to expect. Like, so our fans always show up out of, like, their crypts. And
yeah, and they were just as diverse there as they are in the States. It was so varied from, like, metal fans to more just, like, goth people to, like, punk rock people to just, like, super normal-looking people who I couldn't even place why they were there, but they all were enjoying it. It's really, really cool to see that.
Those were, like, really magical, and I think it was especially magical because it was, like, for most people, it was the last shows that they ever went to because we literally just snuck right back into the States. I think it was like a couple days after we got back.
Yeah, they shut down the borders.
The borders were like shut down and all the travel was banned and everything started shutting down because of coronavirus. So we literally played maybe some of the last shows of the year for people, and I couldn't really ask for a better way. Like, we went out with a bang anyways, so they were just the most amazing shows. Really, really had an amazing time.
You just can't beat the feeling when you're like, it's going to be empty, and then you walk out and you're just like, wow, how do they know about this?
Sold out. Yeah, exactly. Who are you? Like, you live halfway around the world. Like,
yeah. Well, I think it also says a lot too, about you guys in general and your mentality about going into something, like I always tell people, like with my band, they go, I hate when they go, how's your band? Are y'all any good? I always just say, keep your expectations low and we'll exceed it. So I feel like it's kind of like the same thing going into like shows like that, is that, you keep your expectations real, but then you go in and they just blow up.
Yeah, definitely.
So
no, it was great.
So you guys have probably been doing a lot of press too, again, since the last time we talked, and I gotta ask you, so like, what is one question that you get totally tired of being asked?
There's a lot of repetitive questions.
I know, it's funny. It kind of feels like everyone asks the same 10 questions, but like I don't really mind because every time we answer them, it's a little different. And,
we're in different moods. It's a different day.
Each publication has a different audience that they reach. So, I don't know. I think I'm always pretty grateful that anyone would even, like, really want to take the time out to talk to us and support the band. So, I don't know. I don't think I really have, like, anything that annoys me. I'm always happy to like talk to people. I don't know, you?
Yeah, they don't bother me. But like, people ask the same questions, but I don't mind answering them personally.
I mean, of course, everyone always wants to know, like, are you a real Satanist?
Or just like why we play the music we do, and all
or they're
that.
like, why is it called Satanic Doo-Wop? I mean,
I feel
how
like
come no one's asking what my favorite ice cream flavor is?
Yeah, no one asks what our favorite color is. Maybe it's too obvious.
Oh my God! Well, then you're gonna love some of the questions I have for you, because I feel like we covered so much of that ground the first time we talked, where I'm just like, people can go back and listen to the first podcast we did, because I don't want to repeat it too much. Like, there's so much more I want to learn about you guys, and so, and of course, because I'm not, I'm not a magazine, so I can just do whatever the fuck I want,
Yeah.
Woo! Yay! I mean, I think people are still learning about us, so we're happy to introduce who we are.
Yeah, there's a lot of new finding for sure.
Yeah, so whatever.
I think one of the things I love so much about the album, the full length, is that people are still hearing it for the first time, like you said, and I mean, I still listen to that album at least probably like once a week or so. And every time I listen to it, I never get tired of it, but I can always hear how fresh it is, because someone, new will hear it and go, how did I not hear this band? And I'm just like, and I think it's such a step out from, the typical, the classic heavy metal or the doom or the stoner stuff that's become so trendy of sorts in the genre, that you guys kind of came in from the side with something completely different. And have you guys had much interaction with the metal community in general, like as far as other bands? And if so, like, how has that been as far as connecting with them?
Yeah, I mean, Psycho Las Vegas, we played that last year, and we got to, see a lot of people we knew, obviously it's a big meeting ground for so many people, and we've always been fans of metal and had friends who are also into metal, it's like... I
mean, I have quite a solid, like, metal record collection. I mean, I feel like with the visuals and imagery that we use and are inspired by, you can't help but, like, not...
right.
metal. Like, I honestly feel like, what was that interview we did, and that the writer typically covered like black metal, but they're just
right.
like, we had a long conversation. It was really great, and it's like, we are kindred. Like,
we were all kindred spirits. We decided
kindred spirits. Like, black metal, I think philosophically, is probably like closer to our philosophy than the classic American 50s and 60s rock and roll that we actually sound like. So,
there's a lot of common ground, So, we meet bands, and we kind of, I forget who we met. We met, like, some people from Opeth. We were hanging out on Uncle Acid, of course, because they were out there, which is great to see them again.
Like Graveyard.
Who else was out there? We were hanging out. I don't remember right now. It was kind of
I don't know, like,
but
there's so many. The metal community has been really supportive, I think, because we recognize that we're, like, on the same team, even if our music...
And everybody just wants to play rock and roll anyway,
Yeah. I mean, metal is like a a development out of rock and roll. And so it's just like we're referencing the very early beginnings of rock and roll, and they're referencing like where it went to and pushing the boundaries of like the future of it sonically. So
we listen to it all though, you know, so there's always that common ground.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we love metal.
It's funny because I've always said this for the longest time, is that I feel like heavy metal audiences, you know, like fans in general, are some of the most open-minded people, because I feel like, you know, metal fans can kind of go backwards, you know, and enjoy six like I'm a huge Monkees fan, like I love Paul Revere and the Raiders and bands like that, but then you know, like but I also love, you know, Black Widow and bands like that, you know, and whatever. And so I feel like metal fans can tend to go back, where it's harder for more non-metal fans to kind of move into the genre. So I always kind of got the impression, at least for me as a person, is that I'm very accommodating to what I listen to, as far as like, you know, if it's good, I'll listen to it.
That kind of reminds me of Satanism, and how like the imagery of metal is almost like a blind to people who can't get past the you know, the like how it appears to be so, you know, maybe like violent or, you know, evil or whatever, you know, and in reality, in general, like the message is not that, you know, and it's like used as like a literary, you know, tool and whatnot, you know, for the lyrical purpose or the visuals. So it's like once you can see past that and be like, you know, this is actually great music, these are like technicians, it really opens your mind, you know, and that kind of, like you're saying, you'll be able to go backwards and view music in a different way, opposed to the other way where people are scared of the imagery, you know, they're really closed-minded and closed off.
Yeah, I think you have to have a certain amount of open-mindedness to pick up a Slayer record and be like,
cool,
oh, what's this pentagram, you know, like in this ghastly scene, like, you know, whereas I always, you know, saw a Slayer record and was like, what the fuck, this is incredible, like, what does this sound like, you know, as a kid growing up. So.
I think that most kids like us, you know, like the kind of, you know, outcast, you know, young rock and roll kids were, you know, I mean, I was totally drawn to that as a kid. I was like, you know, let's see, what was it? ZZ Top with a car on the front, or like Iron Maiden with fucking Eddie on it? I'm like, yeah, give me the Eddie, dude. That looks fucking badass. I want to know what's in there, you know? Like,
yeah, and I mean, I feel like it's just amping up the spirit, the like antinomian spirit, and the ideals of transgression and individuality and subversion that have always been part of rock and roll's ethos from the very beginning. I mean, this was a music of, you know, oppressed black people in America, and it very much was pushing back against the status quo and the societal norms, and it was shaking a lot of shit up. I mean, there's a reason why early rock and roll was actually dangerous and was banned, and you know, felt like the music, the anthems for the rebel angels, you know. So I think that you can relate to that spirit across the timeline, which is kind of like what made us realize that maybe including our own personal, like, you know, Satanism and witchcraft aesthetics and practices into this classic early American rock and roll maybe wasn't that far-fetched, because the attitude is the same. You know, if you love Chuck Berry, then you're probably gonna like, you know, down the line, like Black Sabbath. And if you like Black Sabbath, well then shit, like it's not that far from, you know, Alice Cooper or King Diamond, or where the expression of the genre went. You know, it was, metal was like birthed out of rock and roll. You wouldn't have metal without rock and roll. So, I mean, if you listen to, like, Tony Iommi talking about his influences, he just wanted to be the Beatles. And they're like, well, we can't be the Beatles. So, or we can't be Elvis.
The evil Beatles.
So metal bands idolize Elvis, early rock and roll, you know? Like, that's where they're coming out of. So I feel like we're just adding another, I don't know.
Yeah.
Piece in the timeline or something.
Well, I mean, I think, again, like I said, one of the things that drew me to you guys in the first place was that I loved the fact that it was just a way to expose people to another, not really genre, but another style of music that could still tie in with a lot of the fundamentals or some of the underlying or even very obvious beliefs of certain bands, like black metal. Like, I was joking around with a friend of mine, but I was being totally serious, where I told him, I said, it's kind of crazy that I find Twin Temple to be more evil than Watain, and their shows are I said, and their shows don't smell horrible like dead animals. So like, to me, it's really within the lyrical content. So this was something I was curious to ask you guys. Like, so like, when you think about death metal bands, and you think even some black metal, the vocals are so gruff and so like you can't make out what they're even saying. Do you think that the message that they're trying to convey, like whether it be Satanism or political, whatever, gets lost in that? And is that one of the reasons why you guys kind of take it into like more of like a clean sound?
Well, we were considering having Alex growl on the next record.
We might do a black metal record.
Black metal doo-wop? That would be awesome.
Black and doo-wop, baby.
Black and doo-wop. They're always making up genres anyway, so
True cult Norwegian doo-wop. But I personally don't think so. I think that so much of your message can be carried with visuals and symbolism and imagery, and like if people really want to know the lyrics, they can look them up. Although black metal's so obscure, they're like into being really occult.
Yeah, I don't know if they have their lyrics on like whatever, like Lyric Genius or whatever. But I feel that the spirit of like transgression and like a band's politics is very easily communicated through symbol, and I feel that that's what makes, to a certain extent, that's how the human psyche communicates most powerfully anyways. Yeah,
it's through symbol and through the subconscious. That's when we're tapping into that, inner world, is when we speak through symbol. And, I feel like if they spelled out their lyrics, I mean, maybe it would be more intelligible.
Like on an intellectual level.
But the spirit is still there. So I don't think communication all comes down to like the audibility or like clarity or enunciation of like lyrics per se. So that, I don't think that was like a choice. Of course, I mean, I really do put a lot of thought and energy into what I want to say, and what we want to say with the lyrics. And I've always been inspired by like writing and poetry and literature. So that's a big point, or a big part of it artistically for us. But mainly, I mean, I want to sound like all the singers that I grew up loving. It's just what resonates with me on, a subconscious level. It's like,
right.
I love like Patsy Cline, and I love Billie Holiday, and, Sarah Vaughan, or, any Loretta Lynn, like any of the great singers. I mean, Roy Orbison, like all of those singers inspire me, and I appreciate the art of the death growl, though. Like,
I'm a Shrieker fan. I like the shrieks more.
Shrieks, yeah. Or like King Diamond or whatever. He's great.
Yeah.
But it's just not personally something that I heard and got chills up my spine and thought, that's who I am, which
right.
is fine. It doesn't mean that I don't like it. It's just like you have to do what calls to you, like what your 93 is. And mine happens to be like, vintage rock and roll singers. So I don't know that. I couldn't really tell you why.
Well, I mean, it's obvious that it's a very natural influence on you guys, because I feel like this, especially with this kind of music, it's, you can tell when someone's just doing it very learned, or if someone's doing it because it's actually a part of them and it's a part of what they form themselves as musicians, or even just as listeners. And but writing lyrics to this kind of music with a kind of dark satanic message to it, like, I would assume it's a lot easier to do it to metal music because, like you said, you can have the whole attitude, the whole like that. But like when you're singing something beautifully melodic and kind of doo-woppy, like, does it just come natural to you because you love that kind of music, or do you have to find yourself being careful about how you sculpt the lyrics to certain songs?
We like to play with the juxtaposition and have it just actually empower, that vibe.
And I think we revel in the cognitive dissonance and the just sheer oddness of hearing completely almost out of place lyrics within that format. I think the two sharpen one another because it's a paradox of sorts, right? So whenever you have two contrasting ideas within the same vessel, they seem to just heighten one another's potency. I don't think we struggled. I remember when I wrote the lyrics to Lucifer, sitting on the couch just cackling to myself with a melody in mind as well, and being like, Zach, come here, this is hilarious. It felt freeing, and whenever I have a visceral reaction to a lyric, I find myself being like, shit, is this too gnarly, or is this just too ridiculous, or
is it too over the top kitschy or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, that's when I'm like, you know what, do it. And I push past that discomfort because I think
that it feels good.
Then it feels good because you're like, shit, I got away with that. That's hilarious. You know what I mean?
To me, that's the best is when you can, I've always just, as a writer myself, if I've ever been writing something, the minute I question whether or not it's okay to write, I go, okay, then it's going to be good. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because,
cool.
if it just kind of flows naturally, that's good too. But if you're find yourself with some restraint going, God, should I say that? No, you should absolutely fucking say that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was a block that I had as a writer, is not allowing myself to do those things. Somehow there are these rules or whatever, that you're taught, and I don't know, don't offend people, and don't be political, or don't make it as palatable for the mass consumption. We worked with producers and songwriters who were in the past, not on this project. In the past, this was fully our own, but it was a big turnoff because they would be middle of the road bullshit. The best songs,
right?
Nursery rhymes, and the chorus. The best
keep
ones.
It simple,
la la la. People don't want to hear a bunch of lyrics. This isn't poetry. This is a pop song, or this is a song. Lyrics are different, and I always really felt that was. I know it always rubbed me the wrong way because. Isn't it a spoken word format set to rhyme? I mean, shouldn't it strive to be among the best, works of literature or poetry that you can be? Granted, they have their own set of rules that's completely different from literature. I mean, it's meant to be spoken and sung. But I guess it always felt like it really underappreciated and underestimated the intelligence of people who listen to music by saying, the chorus just needs to be nursery rhyme syllables. Keep it yeah, and it's
right.
Lock people's brains, that's their only goal.
Granted, algorithmically or whatever, there's tricks you can play with the brain to keep it playing in your head, and you absolutely can engineer a quote unquote catchy song premeditatively, should you choose. But that was never something that seemed important to us. It was just I'm not gonna write the world's 666 song that is called Baby Yeah, you know what I mean? We've already heard that lyrically, and that's fine if that's your bag, but it wasn't exciting to me as a lyricist, because I'm more interested in pushing the boundaries of where you can take a song and what you can say with it, and whatever.
No, I totally get that, because and I don't know if it's also because I'm a writer and I'm a songwriter myself, but even when I was a kid, one of the things I used to appreciate was that like if I could read lyrics without hearing the music and feel captivated or feel intrigued by it, to me, then the music just kind of came second, if that makes sense, because I was like, I've always been a very lyrically, drawn person. And one of the things like with Twin Temple is that like you guys do take this kind of, or not even kind of, you take this, your satanic beliefs and your doctrines and whatnot, and you put it to music, but at the same time you do it in almost like a positive nature, as opposed to like a fire and brimstone, a horrible kind of thing. Is that because you guys actually believe that there's kind of a lighter side to Satanism? And when I mean lighter, I don't mean like lighthearted. I mean like lighter as in like not so overtly dark.
We think that that darkness is what births the light, so they're one and the same to us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's about transcending those binaries of good, evil, light.
Yeah, they're one and the same.
Dark, sinner, saint, and all these false dichotomies that we set up as a society. I mean, they're really an illusion. So death is a part of life,
Mm-hmm.
Darkness is a part of light. And personally, I try to stay away from, dark, black, evil, light, white, good, because it's also predicated on a really racist system which posits whiteness as goodness and blackness as evil. So I don't see, the imagery that we use in any way really aligning with, the quote-unquote evil. I mean, the skull is a symbol of remembering that you're going to die and to live your life to the fullest, and from death, life is birthed, and that's just the nature of the world we live in. So we're certainly not trying to...
Yeah, we're not trying to make anything good because we don't even believe in good.
Or, like, put a new spin on I don't know, other people's satanic beliefs. I mean, the beauty of Satanism and why it works for us is that it really places a lot of value on the individual.
Mm-hmm.
It's a limited tradition. It's made to allow a pluralism of sorts. And it's like, there's no one right way. So I feel that the best way to navigate that is like, you have experiential knowledge, right? You try things, you keep what works, you discard what doesn't.
Experiment.
You understand that like, not one medicine can be prescribed for every patient because everyone is different.
The world is subjective.
And objective at the same time. So how could you say one way of being works for everyone? Like, we appreciate too that our music is not for everyone, and that some people are turned off or scared, or it's just not where they are in their life, where they're interested in the world that we're creating and explore, and that's completely fine too. So I just see that everyone's at different spots on the tree of life, or on their path, or whatever you want to call it, and it's completely not only okay, but expected that you're going to be exploring different archetypes and energies and symbols at that point in your life. And it doesn't mean what you're further or, better or along on the path or whatever. It just means that's where you are in your life, and that's what you gravitate towards. So, we're definitely not trying to please everyone. Right. Or be like, we're good, or we're not good, or whatever.
We're not bad.
We're like super evil.
Yeah.
But we are.
Yeah, I love it, of course. But actually, it's so funny because to kind of touch on what you were talking about was that, and it's okay for people to also just like music, like to not really feel like they have to have some sort of a personal or spiritual connection to the lyrical I mean, like, I'm an atheist, and I've been one since I was like 17, and Stryper is one of the best live bands I've ever seen, you know what I mean? But it doesn't mean I'm going to a Stryper show and holding my hand up and going, oh man, I've been saved. I just go, God damn, man, Michael Sweet sounds killer, like, I mean, so it's like I can actually enjoy the music and not feel one way or the other, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of their prerogative, and if that's what they do, that's fine, but sometimes it's okay to just like music,
I completely agree, and that's why music is a universal language, because it communicates on a different level. I mean, I love gospel music, Without gospel, we wouldn't have rock and roll.
Yeah, but like, we don't care for their messages.
But like, I don't go to church, I don't, believe in a sky daddy, ruling my life. But I completely respect people who that's their path and that's what works for them, and I still enjoy the music. I love a lot of music that's traditionally based out of like, Christian ideology. I have no problems putting on a, early Aretha Franklin record or whatever. I think that there's great music regardless of the individual's personal beliefs and,
No, I totally agree, because, I grew up in New Orleans. And so growing up in a predominantly Catholic city, gospel music was, jazz music was, just everywhere. But at the same time, like as a kid, you're hearing stuff like, oh, they're vampires. Do they hang out on the levee? And like, what's up? What's voodoo? What is this? So there's always this. And I feel like for people in general, the darkness is always going to be appealing to people because it's so much more mysterious than the, quote unquote light, if that makes sense. Like, it kind of goes back to what you were talking about with the album covers. It's like, do you want to listen to something that's so like obvious, or do you want to listen to something that actually piques your interest and goes, I might be scared of this,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the occult means. It's that which is hidden.
Right. So. And so it was a friend of mine told me one time, he said, there's a reason why during Halloween, people don't go walk through churches. They walk through haunted houses because they like to be scared. Like there's something about that. I mean, if you go walk through a church, you're like, okay. Yeah. But, haunted house, you got like evil shit jumping out at you. You're like, oh my God, I paid for this.
Yeah. People love a mystery.
Well, yeah, it's absolutely part of who we are as humans. I mean, if you look in our art and culture for thousands of years, just as we're interested in, angels, there's been demons and vice versa. It's all part and parcel of the same human experience, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to kind of go backward a little bit, you guys were talking about like you don't go to church, but you do hold your own services. It's a nice segue, right? You see what I did there? Is that you guys were doing your like Sunday services on YouTube, and then you've also been doing the Stripped from the Crypt series. How has that been for you guys, and has that been something that's partially what you've been doing to survive COVID right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the world was quarantined, and all of our tours for the foreseeable future had been canceled. Mm-hmm. We were hurting in the sense that a large part of our will, and our 93 was kind of shut down. So we were just trying to find a way to commune with our fans and connect with people. I mean, we had also George Floyd and the protests and this amazing moment with the Black Lives Matter movement. So we just thought it was an opportune time to take a step back and, raise some money for some causes, communicate with the fans, and kind of like lick our wounds of being sidelined.
And give people who couldn't come to the shows, a bit of a performance with the videos that are up on YouTube, and kind of just hit all those.
I think it's fantastic because I think it goes right back to what you said, Alexandra, earlier was that, not only is music, the, just the, international language, but it's also something that in all times of, dire and whatever, like we always find a way to fall back into music as this healing source, and so I feel like that it's almost, bands like you guys, I mean, you're still putting your music out there and offering fans a way to kind of escape from the craziness. And so I hope you guys realize what an impact y'all are having, because I've watched these performances myself and gone, oh, it's so good to hear them. I miss that band,
Yeah, we definitely miss performing.
Yeah.
It was and it is a hard blow to take, because it's like we finally got to the point where we were able to tour and there was, people showing up for our shows, and we finally booked out the whole year. And I mean, for me, especially like a woman, being booked on these major male-dominated rock festivals like Download and Hellfest, it was just like, it felt like we're on this mission. And
right.
It was like a huge moment of, like, I think, achievement for us to think, wow, look how far we've come, and this weird ass band like that we are going to be on sharing a stage with fucking Iron Maiden. Like, this is nuts.
Luckily, we're all rebooked for next year.
Yes, this is true. 2021, we're back on
Download and Hellfest.
That's the light.
Fingers crossed. Horns crossed.
Can you guys give me a ride? Because I'd love to see the show.
Yeah, we've got a spare broomstick, I'm sure, somewhere.
I was about to say, Atlanta's not, I mean, you should make it here pretty quickly. If you're on a broom, that'd be fine, so. But,
yeah.
Well, so speaking of, because that's another thing I wanted to kind of go into was that, obviously, like, the whole touring world, music world is just on shutdown right now. What are your, what are your, like, predictions for the future of, live music and touring music? Because I feel like this is probably changing the world as we know it forever. So how do you feel like it's going to change?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to say right now. Obviously, like, when shows return, which is projected to be like early mid next year, that they're going to be, distance and whatnot. So that'll clearly be very different for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Obviously, it changed the economics also of just touring and production and all that. So, like, maybe we're going to see bands with less production. I really don't know. I hope not, because we're really big into production and theater and all that. But it seems to be how it's going to most impact it is, like, reduction of people who can even attend the concert, reduction of capacity, but with actually more staff, So it's like, I don't know. It's really, really complicated.
For the time being, anyways.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that in any time of disruption, the positive side is that there's always a concurrent spirit of innovation and reinvention.
Right.
And I think that right now we're seeing a lot, like Babylon is reaping, like she is wielding her sword and slaying anything that didn't really belong in this new eon. So whether that's bands that are, sexual predators, or record labels like Burger Records that were breeding, a community of, like, sexual abuse. All of these things during this time, it's like they're being,
cold.
knighted. Yeah, cold.
Yeah.
The hand of the Great Mother is, like, destroying these old, old things that needed to be kind of, like,
just dead, outmoded ways.
Killed to make way for the new. So, like, that's my only hope, is that as we all kind of hit the reset button and take a pause, and Babylon does her, like, work clearing the field, that it'll make way for something better. Because
we'll get there. I mean, people need live music. It's just a matter of how and when. It'll be there. It just might not be the exact same for a little while.
Yeah. That being said, I mean, it's kind of in some ways, like Zach was saying, like, touring already is not very lucrative for a band like us that's starting out, because the overhead costs of renting a van and a trailer and printing merch and paying out your band and driving for like 2 days straight, and even like us, you eat horrible junk food or like out of vending machines, you still come home being like, wow, we didn't lose a shit ton of money, great. Like and then it's like, oh cool, well so now we can only sell 30% of the venue, and that's a sold out show. So I think it's going to be tight, but like I said, I have hope that it will create a healthier environment for musicians moving forward. I mean, I'm loving seeing all of these outdated, misogynist, ideas of like rock being destroyed. So
it's so funny. I mean, because I really do. So like I'm a big believer in ancient astronaut theory and stuff. So like obviously like I watch Ancient Aliens. Like that's me going
like
to church. Giorgio Tsoukalos is like I want him to be my dad, actually. He is so awesome.
But I have a photo of Giorgio when he came to the show.
No, did you really?
I did. He was wearing his big, like, giant amber, like, blown glass fucking necklace.
Is he as over the top in person as he is on TV?
Yeah, he was. Yeah. I feel like he was trying to... Was it some, I don't know.
Lording over some, like, girls.
Yeah, he was trying to be all like, I'm Giorgio. And, like,
That's amazing. But anyway, what I was getting at, because that was I love that interlude right there, was that one of the things that kind of goes along with ancient astronaut theory and stuff is that there's always been this idea that, kind of like what you said, Alexandra, was that throughout the history of our world, and our universe and whatnot, there's always seems to be these stories of kind of like a reboot. Do you know what I mean? Kind of like, okay, you know what? We're gonna hit the pause button, just like you said. We're gonna wipe all the shit out, and then we're gonna start fresh. So here is the new starting point. Let's go from here and mature and grow as far as like audiences and things go. And so, like, with that being said, you're talking about that you guys are booked out next year and everything. Do you see yourselves doing some more, still continuing to do these online performances and whatnot? Because that seems to be what a lot of bands are doing right now.
Yeah, we're talking about doing more. It's not going to be a regular weekly thing right now.
I think that's something we're definitely thinking about, how to best do that. I think there's lots of interesting ways people are kind of capitalizing on the online concert. So I'm sure you'll see something from us of that ilk in the near future.
See, because I love that, because like you said, I've seen a lot of bands doing this. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Italian band Lacuna Coil. They are staging a full stage production at like a soundstage and broadcasting the show live, and they're selling tickets and all this stuff. And I was just like, that's pretty fucking brilliant. I mean, obviously I can imagine that it's kind of a hard dynamic when you're missing that feedback from the crowd, but like, kudos to the bands who are able to still, put it out there,
Yeah. LA and America as a whole are so far behind in the pandemic race. Like, getting a group of people together in a soundstage right now is just dangerous.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're back to like
horrible
lockdown for the most part until we get it under control in LA. But we have discussed, with Kristen, doing something of that ilk where we, have a concert and we can actually do production and sell tickets.
Yeah,
and
just not. The city, at least here, is not quite ready.
We just can't get a crew and people really together. At least we don't feel comfortable contributing to that.
Like forcing people into a room to like work for us.
Well, kudos to you guys for taking it. Yeah, I mean, kudos to you guys for taking it seriously, because I feel like obviously with our incredible president and his wonderful administration, like they're just I feel like we just constantly keep moving backwards. So as musicians and as reliable human beings, I feel like by doing what we're doing and doing what you're doing is really the only way to truly slow this down and for us to get back to as normal as we can.
That's how we feel.
Yeah, I feel like, I'm not going to waste time criticizing people who like aren't wearing a mask or, whatever. I think the best way is to just like be and act the way you want to see other people want to act and like lead by example. And like human behavior is infectious. We all copy each other. So the more like examples you put out there of like how you want it to be, i.e. wearing a mask in public, keeping a healthy space from people in public, like that will just catch on. So that's kind of where we're at. We're like, I don't know what kind of message it would send to like hire a whole crew and like get our band all close to one another and like do a concert like that for us personally.
And where we are, in California and Los Angeles.
And like with LA, the way it's been with so many cases and whatnot, it's like, that's kind of why we're just holding out to do anything like that. And we were doing the acoustic performances, just the two of us and whatnot, because we thought, we don't have to make it uncomfortable for, people. So
yeah, or potentially dangerous.
Zach, I think Zach, you nailed it on the head right there. Was when you said that the U.S. in general, like how far behind we are in this, this battle than everybody else. Yeah, I have some friends who are in a band in Sweden, and they're doing social distance performances now, outdoor. I mean, they set up a stage on a pier, and like they sold tickets in groups of 4. You had to be together. All the tables were 6 feet apart from each other, and people were on the lake on their boat. And I'm going, God, they are so far ahead of us. Like I'm still sequestering in my basement,
Yeah.
Well, it's funnily enough, I mean, the American ethos like shares, at least in terms of its fierce individualism, a lot with Satanism, and it has its benefits and its drawbacks. You see cultures who are more aware of the collective and more serving the whole rather than the individual. It seems that those cultures have been able to get coronavirus under control because while people are out here on their megaphones about personal liberty, everyone else just wears a mask and gets on with it. You know what I mean? And like, I think we're so like concerned with this like liberty and individualism and whatnot that sometimes, that's been like the driving force for like innovation, rock and roll, jazz, this American individualism, but at the same time, it's like...
It can be deranged.
And people are like, well, wearing a mask is against my sense of personal liberty.
Yeah, like freedom is freedom. Like, I should do whatever the hell I want. Like, yeah, it's not that simple.
But it's like you see that over and over again. With the 1918 pandemic, it was the same damn thing in America. People didn't want to wear masks. It's like when people started saying, hey, wear a seatbelt so you don't die in a car. Everyone protested that. Same thing with helmets. Like, the same thing over and over again, So I'm hoping that it's the tides are shifting here because I'm just like, can we go back out on tour now? Stop, like, killing people because you just can't wear a fabric flap over your face, I don't know.
I mean, like I haven't played with my band since I think we had a show in January or February, and I'm just like, give me my fucking band back, people, like, and I swear to God, like being in Georgia, I can't tell you how many times I've heard, they're taking my freedoms away. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, I'm just gonna stay inside, man. I can't take these people at all. Like, I just feel better off inside. It's kind of like watching from a glass bubble, and I can only hope they all just start dropping like flies,
Yeah, it's just like this isn't a political issue at all. It's a public health and safety issue, and there's absolutely no reason to politicize it.
No.
But what can you do?
Look, my wife works for the CDC, and basically, in a nutshell, I think everyone's consensus is listen to science, not some guy who stares at the sun during a solar eclipse. Like that's pretty cut and dry, So, well, anyway, so I've got a few more questions for you. A couple of them are, some of them are going to be some of these like fun questions, like Zach was talking about, like. I'm not going to ask what your favorite color is because I feel like you expected that one. But let's see. So, like, what is an album that you guys feel like everybody should own?
Ooh.
That's actually a trick question because I wouldn't prescribe one album for every single person.
I like that.
I don't know, you?
Yeah, same.
And besides, there's so many fucking great albums out there. Like, how could you be like, you must have the one album? I'm really opposed to any time anyone says, this is the one thing that you must, blah, blah, blah. Anytime anyone begins a sentence with that, I tune out and I'm like, okay, definitely not doing that.
Well, then I'll stop telling people that they have to own the Twin Temple album. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just going to... Be careful what you wish for, girl.
Well, shit, since we're not touring and we could use the money, our album is the one you got. Is the one you got to own.
That's what I was going to say.
Were you?
I'll tell you, I will include a link to probably the album at the end of this podcast, by the way. So,
yes, but that being said, the one album and the only album that is the only album everyone should listen to in the world
Striper.
is Twin Temple.
Striper.
It is Striper.
Don't be a hater, Zach. I'm just kidding.
I own a Striper record, and I am not ashamed.
About how they're like super proud about hitting people with their Bibles.
Yeah, someone asked us about Striper in an interview, and I was like, oh yeah, I like pulled out that dusty record, and then Zach was like, don't they throw Bibles at people's heads? We're like, it's kind of a good idea.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I remember watching an interview years ago with King Diamond, and one of the things they were asking about his shows, and they were like, "Are your shows are violent and dangerous?" And he's like, "My shows aren't violent and dangerous." He goes, "Striper is more violent than us. They throw Bibles at the audience." He goes, "They could put someone's eye out."
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
So it's like I had to laugh at that. I was like, you know, you're more likely to get physically injured at a Striper show, than you are at a King Diamond show. So, what particular song, if there's a song, and you have to pick one, like what is one song that whenever you hear it on the radio, like you just have to sing along with it? And I want to start with Zach because it's like no matter how bad you sing it, like what is a song you have to sing along with?
Hey, Zach, he's got a good voice.
That's
this
really
is like
hard.
His secret about Zach.
That's really hard. Let's see. A song on the radio. Well, given I haven't really driven in like 6 months, I'm gonna have to look in the back of my mind. Fuck, there's so many good songs. I mean, well, it depends on what radio station, clearly, too. So, I don't know. I mean, obviously, like, let's just go with an easy one, like Guns N' Roses. I can't help but, like, do a bad Axl impression, you know? That's just like, fun. At a really low volume, I can hit all his notes, but I could never belch them out.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, I do the most painful "More Than a Feeling" by Boston. Seriously, it's like it's absolutely horrifying. But
that's great.
What about you, Alexandra?
I actually, unfortunately, I must admit that I have the terrible habit of singing over like every song that comes on, unfortunately, for
everything.
Yeah. It's like the singer's air guitar, okay? Like, guess what? Our instrument is in our face, and we get to use it whenever the hell we want. So we don't have to air guitar with a song. We can just sing along with it, and that's cool. Pretty much every song that comes on the radio, I have a bad habit of singing over it.
Like, even if you don't know the lyrics?
I can tell he's getting, like, slightly, like, can I just listen to an album without you singing the entire album with it? So I try, like, not to do that too much, but...
That's so funny.
I mean, shit, if, like, Unchained Melody comes on, you best believe I'm ripping that one up.
Look, I can personally ruin any song. I guarantee it. Next time you guys come back to Atlanta, I will ruin one of your songs. So I can't tell you how many times I've been walking around the house going, "Oh, Lucifer, my love." And see, I could just totally ruin that one already.
That's not bad.
Yeah, well, you know, I try. So,
you know what song I have been singing over is WAP. by Cardi-B. I fucking love that song. I think
this is amazing.
She is the perfect incarnation and example of the Eon of Babylon of sacred.
And her unfortunate Christian employees.
True, she is Christian, but that song is satanic as fuck, even though she's Christian.
I was about to say, like I think her Christian values get tucked away a little every now and then, which I don't mind. So, but I have to tell you, when I heard about that song, like a friend of mine sent me the link, and I was like, I have been offline for exactly 10 hours, and all of this shit has happened since the last time I was online. And like, he's texting me headlines, and I'm going, "Is this The Onion? Nope, it's CNN. Is this The Onion? Nope, it's New York Post."
I mean, the fact that Republican senators or whoever the hell it was is running out and saying that they need
holy water in their ears and shit.
I'm like, man, no one said that about our record.
No.
That's so funny.
But I mean, in all honesty, it's the work of fucking genius. Like, a woman speaking about her own sexuality proudly and pushing the boundaries of it and the sacred whoredom and all of it, the empowerment of it. It's fucking rad. And there wasn't a man in sight in the video, and she's lifting up all these other artists and rappers around her and really disrupting the narrative that women have to be in competition with one another. I mean, the whole thing, that's satanic as fuck, if you ask me. And I love that they're little prudes running out worrying about, oh my God, and that one woman who's like, I'm a doctor, and if you have a wet pussy, then this is a
gynecological irregularity.
I'm like, girl, I don't know what kind of bone dry coochie she's working with, but I'm just like, I think it's amazing that women are able to talk about their bodies and their sexuality, their desires, what they want in bed, how they like it, proud of their body's functions. And, it's just like, I love that song. So lately, that's been my little bop.
I tell you, that has been some of the best news I've read ever, because I'm just like, okay, so basically, like, whoever that woman is married to, like, must feel like dog shit if she's saying, like, I've got the Sahara Desert between my legs, and I'm going, he is doing it all wrong, and so are you,
Poor lady.
It's not rocket.
Oh, a medical problem.
A medical problem, yeah. And I'm sure her husband or whatever.
America's so damn prude about that. It's like women aren't supposed to enjoy sex, and they're not supposed to be turned on, and it's supposed to be for procreation, and like, God forbid we enjoy it and are liberated, and I don't know. So I'm like, yeah, that song's badass.
I love that actually came up in this interview without me even having to go there. That was just like that made my day. I'm telling you, that just made it so. Well, I guess the other thing too is, in closing, like, so what's up with some new music? Did you guys have something ready for a follow-up album, or like, are you guys currently writing, or what's going on?
We could tell you, but we would have to send the death curse upon you.
I love it when you talk dirty to me.
Yeah, you'll just have to wait and see. We've been touring a bunch. I mean, last year we were on the road the whole time. It's like, we've been on the road until in mid-February.
Yeah, I think it's like the cycles are basically, you're either busting your ass on tour every day, coming home, breaking down that tour, getting for the next tour, going back out, or you're chilling and you're like writing an album. Right. But like, unless you're one of those rare unicorns that
have other people write their music for them, and they just have to put a vocal track on top of it,
or write on the road somehow, or work with writers. We don't. It's like physically. I'm trying to just survive on the road. I don't have creative. I don't know. It's not some like party in a tour bus where I'm like strumming a guitar. Like, I'm crammed in like a 12-passenger van. Like,
yeah, there's no room to write on the road. I mean, we're too tired. But
you can't even fit like a guitar. I don't know, just when you would do that.
You can do it in your head, but we're just too tired, honestly. So, and then we're working on things right now, but we can't discuss what we're working on.
Yeah, we do have rest assured there are some exciting things in the works coming up. You know, we can't really help ourselves to, like, you know.
We're always creating. I mean, that's just what we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
See, and I love that because, you know, like you said, it's kind of hard to be creative and write in a van, like a 12-passenger van with like 15 people in it. You know, like,
Yeah.
You know, if you got a tour bus with a back lounge and everything, it's like if you're not writing an album, like I fucking hate you, you know, because you have all that space and that luxury to do so, you know.
Yeah, we're not at that level, so until, you know.
Until we have a studio on the bus, we'll be working at home.
Well, so
I still get weird to fit like a guitar or an instrument of writing in a van.
I will say in the past, I was lucky enough to do some bus tours, and I did have a guitar on the bus, and actually was enough room to like restring my guitar and play it, and it was really, really nice.
See,
yeah, we'll get there one day.
Well, as soon as Alexandra does her song, like a collaboration with Cardi-B, you know, like I can kind of see that, you know, happening, you know.
Yeah, I know. I kind of glumly had the realization that Cardi-B would never touch us with a broomstick, a 656-foot broomstick, because we're just like, she, I think, exemplifies a lot of satanic values, but then she also isn't a Satanist, and she exemplifies Christian values as well, because that's what she is. So I'm like, I don't think that
there'll be no collaboration.
No, I don't think Cardi would be down. I think she'd be like, what the fuck is that evil ass shit? It's like she ever started. We're just not in that world at all, you know.
The world is so ruled by Christianity.
Well, she doesn't know what she's missing. That's all I can say. So, but anyway.
No.
So.
But I can gleefully enjoy her feminist empowerment, sexual positivity anthem from afar.
Yeah, it's a good song.
I love that. Well,
maybe there'll be like a cool satanic rapper one day.
There already are.
Are there?
There were actually, Actually, back in the 90s, there were a few satanic rap groups. I think one of them was called Grave Diggers or something like that. And
was one of them called Insane Clown Posse?
Thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk today. I appreciate it. It's always, you know, it's a pleasure again to do it.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us. Always a pleasure.
Well, good. Well, you guys hang in there and stay well and healthy and keep hailing and keep doing all the stuff that you guys do great.
You as well, Don. Thank you.
Well.
Lucifer, my love, the candles are burning bright. Give me a little death, take me as human sacrifice. I'm just a fool in love with you. I'd never sell my soul, but I give it free to you. Oh, Satan, deliver me from society's hypocrisy. I'd kill or spend eternity with you. So tell me